So thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope that this presentation is gonna open your eyes a little bit about what is the situation right now in this digital transformation journey that we're all going into. My name is Gilda Alvarez, and I am an IT specialist manager. I'm an IT specialist because I don't specialize in one technology, but I've been pretty much put at the hat for every relational database and non-relational database environments that are out there, open source as well as Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL. So what I want to bring to you is a little journey into the digital transformation, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the industrial revolutions, and I will explain to you why. I think when I did this presentation back in February for the South Florida SQL Saturday, it was a different time than it is now, but the same concept of what we're going through, it applies, right? And I think now more than ever. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda. We're going to talk about the industrial revolutions and then jump into what the digital transformation is doing for us right now. We will learn, or we will have an eye of what the cloud computing world is doing out there. I want to talk about the on-prem clouds, which are pretty much here to stay, and the survival strategies for many of the people that are in this industry. I hear the digital transformation word constantly in the strategies that companies are taking to survive during this time, right? It was cloud first strategies. It was right now, as of 2020 August, the strategy is most cost optimization. So things have switched a little bit, but it's still the same concept of how we're gonna bring pretty much the product to the customer the fastest possible, right? And then we're gonna talk about the strategies for people that are starting a career in technology and how to navigate through it to survive as an engineer or as a developer or as a professional in technology. So I really hope that you can get this, you can get something out of this presentation. And of course, I'm always here for questions and help you, guide you through this journey. Okay. So why do we want to talk a little bit about the industrial revolution? It has a lot to do with what we're facing right now, right? So let's go back 200 years ago. 200 years ago, people were working. The technologies available for people was such as the natural resources. We had the water, we had wind. That's what was moving the industries. It wasn't until the steam and in the way that man-made power came to the picture that suddenly people came from the rural areas to the cities, and in the cities you had manufacturing. The textile industry grew so fast, and the locomotive industry just took off with the power of steam. Things change. Right now we're going through a pandemic where now we're seeing people going, instead of in the big cities, we're going to the rural, back to square one, right, to kind of survive this situation, but we're going through a different industry at this time. But it's so interesting that you can tie things together on how the way that society shapes with the different industries that we're dealing with, right? So right after the industrial, you got to understand that during the 1800s, we were coming out of many pandemics, right? We were coming out from the Black Plague. We were coming out for the second big pandemic. There wasn't many people that survived, let's face it. So you had in London in the 1861, you have a 2.4% now people that were in agriculture that were 100%. Now there was only 2.4% of people in agriculture, and you had a 49.9% of people in the manufacturing industry. So you could see the switch of the workforce, right? As we moved into the next industries, into the next challenges, the next pandemics of the 1918, and nothing, what shaped this industry was the creation of the electricity, which paved the way to the industry of computing, to what we now have to work with, which is the industry of AI in data exchange. This is what is shaping the industry. This is what is allowing us as professionals in technology to be able to work from home, to be able to have the opportunity to move to a rural area and be able to connect us together and provide support and services for many organizations. So the fact that we are in this industry helped us a lot to continue to move humanity through the next phase of what's gonna face after we survive this pandemic, actually, right? All right, so let's talk about what the digital transformation came to do. As you all of you are aware, some of the people that have not, we come from 20 years of experience in technology where we had to rack servers and cable and Velcro and set up data centers. That was our day-to-day. That was our bread and butter for many of us technology people. What digital transformation did is it broke that wall and said, forget about it. You know, we now can pretty much put the computing power and the real world all together. And a big player for digital transformation was cloud computing. What cloud computing did is enable pretty much an on-demand network access to shared pools. You know, your network, your server, your storage, your application. All of these things came into one click of a button, and boom, in minutes you had the environment you needed. In the previous world, you had to have your network admin, your sysadmin, your DBA, your developer. You have to have so many people to get from one place to the other. Now you can just sign up, get your machine in by the click of a button. So the cloud computing came to make this path easier and cost efficient for many organizations. And then this is how we started in the journey of digital transformation. So I just wanted to go over a little about all these things so that you can have more understanding of what's available. At the end of this course, I want you to have a bigger understanding of all the things that are out there, right? And this is not a high level presentation. We're not going to log into all these clouds and we're going to mix and we're going to make the hybrid. No, this is just going to give you an understanding and hopefully by the end of this, guide your career into ways that you can be successful and survive in the digital transformation. So that you have to understand what the different options of types of clouds are out there, right? So you have your public cloud, which, you know, Amazon, biggest provider, high scalability, it gives you a lot of security, it's cheaper. You have your private cloud, you know, it has a limitation, but it's also, you know, it's expensive, let's face it. And then you have the hybrid cloud. And this is where we're going to touch a little bit more emphasis because I want you to understand where the future of the cloud wars is going, right? And we're going to touch about the cloud wars and community cloud. These are the type of clouds, and I will provide you these slides so that you can have that for your own reference, okay? What are the cloud services, right? Many of you already know this is nothing new for all of you guys. I just wanted to emphasize one of the things that it's very visible, right? As you can see, many of these jobs have been taken away because your provider now has control of all of this through different technologies available to them, right? So move into the infrastructure as a service to the platform as a service. We continue to take many of the jobs, and then software as a service completes the whole picture of where the only area where your career will continue flourishing is through data and contact and data manipulation as well as data analysis. This is where at the end of the day, we are going to have to focus our careers since we have the different providers that are building the technology and the infrastructure to eliminate all of these jobs. Right? So the monolithic architecture, which in the past we are used to, right? We have the user, we have the app service, we have the bare metal, has now been replaced by the microservices architecture, right? The capability of what is called the SD-WAN or the software defined brought into the table the capability of partially being anywhere. So you have your public clouds, your containers, your virtualizer, bare metals, all a big pool of resources, and all you connect are your microservices. A different mentality and different architecture than what we were used to. So this is something that we need to get ourselves accustomed to and continue our careers in this side. So we're going to talk a little bit about the VMs and the containers. You know, I'm not sure how much you are exposed to the infrastructure, but when the virtual machines came 10 years ago, it was like big deal. Like it just made our lives so much easier. No more physical servers. But what we are dealing with right now is containers. So containers is pretty much taking the market. And when you looked at a virtual machine, you're dealing with the fact that you have to deal with a hypervisor in the licensing of different OSs, right? For each of your application. With a container, you only deal with one operating system, one engine, and you can put in all the applications you want. So containerization is a technology that we're going to have to continue to work with and become very comfortable with. So this is where the hybrid cloud comes into the picture. Okay, so what is a hybrid cloud? It's a mix of on-prem, private cloud, and third-party cloud, public cloud with orchestration, and that's the key of this whole hybrid cloud. The thing about containers is that when you start scaling up, now you need something that is going to help you move, is going to help you create these containers, and it's going to help you orchestrate them. So we're going to continue to talk a little bit about the orchestration, but the idea of hybrid cloud is here to stay, and it's the reason why many corporations are bringing their products with the hybrid cloud capability as their #1 strategy, right? So I don't know if you can hear this. Let me know. I love this. Long time ago in a sky far, far away. The Cloud Wars. Episode 1. This is when you start seeing the actual fighting, you know, and everybody was like, everybody with their own pie. Everybody had their own little thing. It wasn't until last year, April 9, that Google had launched a new cloud-based management application called Ant. Okay, so what Antis did is gave people the capability of hybrid, right? And so this was the first time that something like that came to the market. So it's pretty much a cloud service that makes both your Google Cloud Platform and your Google Kubernetes engine in your server farm, both your on-prem and your cloud. So Anthons is the beginning of this cloud war that, of course, you had Microsoft come in September during Ignite and come up with their own cloud solution. So Microsoft was working on it. Google kicked it out first, but then you had the other people jumping into the wagon. And what is pretty much happening is as you start scaling out with multiple containers, right? As you can see, we talked about the on-prem, we talked about the cloud. What the orchestration Kubernetes did, it put that pretty much foundation of orchestration so that you can allocate your resources both from your on-prem and your own cloud, right? So Anton was the first, and then AWS went like, what just happened here? So what Kubernetes did, you know, as you're aware, Kubernetes is an open source orchestration capability, is you use that, which they already have familiarity, and provided it as a service. So Anton was a monthly subscription with a minimum of 1 year, and AWS was pay as you go, and they decided, okay, well, pay, you know, pretty much pay as per use. Right now, we need to compete, right? So Anthon's and AWS war began because AWS had the biggest piece of the market, right? But it wasn't just that. Azure, when they came out with their own hybrid solution, it was very complete, and it allowed companies in a more simplistic way to jump into those cloud solutions, right? I'm going to provide this to you so you can read over to the different benefits of the different hybrid cloud solutions. We're going to talk a little bit more about the other players in this, and I'll tell you why it's important that we discuss this. When the AWSs and the Microsoft started competing for these big contracts, right? this is when I would think it was the beginning of the actual hostile, between these two companies, right? One wanted to have, the other wanted to have. And the fact is that the one who drives the demand of any source of is us, the consumer, the companies. The companies decide which product they want to buy, which product they want to go with. But unfortunately, behind that demand comes the engineer and the manpower, right? Which is us. So because Microsoft has already a presence in the market with, let's face it, 20 years into Microsoft technologies, we've seen community build a community for the Microsoft world. When AWS came into the picture, it didn't have a platform of community. So you can see now the AWSs and the Googles jumping into the wagon of community involvement and free training, and because the technologies are new technologies and the communities need to be upskilled. They need to be skilled with these technologies so they can provide the support for a $10 billion project, for example, right? So where does Oracle come into the picture? And this is all new to all of you. As you are aware, you have your AWS, you have your Googles, you have your Microsoft, but you also have your IBMs and you have your Oracles that are pretty much big players in the cloud market. Oracle just announced last month, as I was taking a nap, I started opening up my laptop, and I'm like, holy cow, the world changed when Oracle announced their second generation cloud solution. And they call it the Strike of Empire. Pretty much, they created a system of pretty much cyber security through AI that would prevent or would make this solution impossible to break. It's an amazing solution, but it's not just an amazing solution. It's how it shifts the workforce market. Why does it shift it? Because Oracle is providing a pretty much self-tuning, self-managed, everything self. So if you think you were going to have the regular Oracle job that you were handling over the last 20 years, let me just tell you the story. It's gone. Because once these applications are moved to the cloud, they take complete and automated control. So pretty much the work that the Oracle DBAs used to do, which is installing Oracle, patching Oracle, all of that, tuning Oracle, everything is automated. So it eliminates a lot of jobs. And as we talked about the different offerings of cloud services, we get to the point where the only thing that as data professionals we will have a little bit of work is through the data and the data solutions. But in the management and the architecture and infrastructure, this solution that Oracle is bringing to the market is going to take an enormous amount of jobs out of the market because it is what it is, right? It's a database, and I think Larry from 9.9, he started the whole, it's automatic, everything will be automatic, we're not going to need it. And it is true. He was getting to the point where he now released the generation 2, and this generation 2 will make and shape the market because the other players are also going to want to jump into the same. Because at the end of the day, the cloud solution was minimizing cost, and the digital transformation needs to go to the cost optimization, and what it brings is the removal of a lot of these technical jobs that was taking, that would be difficult for them to continue to move in this digital transformation. So I just wanted to update you on this. This is new, but it's important that we, as Oracle continues to take a little bit of the market, you got to understand Oracle is a giant in the enterprise solutions, right? Very difficult to compete because Oracle runs in amazing operating systems, Linux and Solaris, and these companies are solid, right? Not many of them want to jump out, although they do hate Oracle. Now Oracle tells them, okay, right, you were paying this much money. If you move to the Oracle Cloud, guess what? You're going to cut and the price in half. And it does cut the price because the speed of the environment where these machines live, which is Exadata, it's so fast that it'll beat all the AWS's, Google's, and Microsoft's in the fact that it's so fast, right? So you have a great competitor out there. It's still going to be pricey, but what they're going to guarantee is because of the speed of where they're put in your environment, it's going to be a lot more cost efficient, which is targeting exactly what the digital transformation in this pandemic or in this situation we're living with is heading towards, which is cost optimization, right? So this is new, brand new. We're gonna see it as it shapes, and eventually next year I'll do another kind of measurement of how much of the market share Oracle is taking with this solution, and I think they're doing it right. I'm actually pretty excited. It's a great engine and it's a great offering. All right, so the next thing, I don't know if you're aware, is your on-prem clouds. Your on-prem clouds is kind of like the same thing that you have in your AWS's, Google's, Microsoft's, Oracle, but in your own data center. So the leading provider of HCI, which is hyper-converged technology right now, is Nutanix. So Nutanix beat all the odds. This little company that started 10 years ago with an amazing virtualization technology, which is free. Oh, when VMware heard that, they almost had a heart attack. It's free, yeah, it's free. So what they sell is pretty much software. They're not selling the because it used to be servers. They used to sell racks of servers, but now what they sell is membership. So it's an amazing solution. It's now #1. So when it started back 10 years ago, it was this little bit kid in the vast world of hyperconverged infrastructure, and VMware was so big that it looked at it and like, I'm not even going to pay attention to you. And then it grew to where it is right now, a very high competitor, and VMware is having to adjust to this cloud war to be able to continue to be a player. So here's the Nutanix. I do a lot of work for them. I do a lot of migrations, on-prem migrations. But what I noticed with the VMware behavior is that they said, okay, we can't compete. Let's unite our forces with the big players. So VMware united forces with the AWSs, with the Googles, and the Microsoft to build a so-called hybrid cloud solution, but it's really not hybrid because you're basically building a virtual machine that goes and moves to different places. Is not the orchestration that a hybrid cloud solution does through Kubernetes, right? So that's just a story on VMware that I want to make sure you guys. It's still in the game. It's still, but as we move further with hyper-converged technologies and the new products that Nutanix is offering in the market, you're gonna feel, you're gonna start looking at how to optimize your environment and performance. And some of these solutions might not be the best solutions, right? So what does VMware do to get to the cloud, right? As you can see, this is a little bit of an understanding. If you're familiar with AWS, all it's doing is using the AWS global infrastructure for you to, when you build a VMware system, this is your customer data on the left, and this is using APIs to build this solution that crosses into the cloud. Not a big deal, but not the best performing, okay? All right, so back to who gave us our food every day, Microsoft, the bread and butter, right? Azure Stack. So the Azure Stack is bringing in the on-prem solution that a hybrid converged environment would bring, but you know, who wants hypervisors, right? Which is your favorite flavor of virtualization is not necessarily what's the best for your organization, right? So this is the Azure hybrid. And it's pretty much what the big Azure Arc brought into the table of the war of the clouds, right? As you can see here, this is your multi-cloud, right? This is your Azure Stack Hub, your Azure Stack Hybrid Converged. You can bring any hardware. Microsoft has never been about selling hardware. And then your Azure Stack Edge, you know, your Internet of Things. All of this united together through one centralized solution, Azure Arc, right? So this is how Microsoft is competing in the market of the hybrid cloud world. As you can see a little bit about what HCI is, you have your Hyper-V, you have your storage spaces, and you have your software-defined network. Software-defined WAN is going to be the thing of the next year. It's going to sell, and it's going to go out. Let's just talk about a little bit about software-defined network. Software-defined network is the capability of building a one network, right? It looks like one corporation, but different places. It can be located in different parts of different offices, but it all behaves as one. And it has the capability of balancing your load intelligently through artificial intelligence. So everything in machine learning. So all of these environments have been enhanced by the fourth industrial revolution, which is AI. And so as we move into this fourth industrial revolution, what you're going to realize is that we have lost jobs, and we are going to continue to lose jobs, right? Right? So you must unlearn what you have learned. It's sad, but it is the truth, okay? And I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything to you. The world is changing, and we must change with the world. Just like those people in the rural areas when the first industrial revolution hit, they had to make the adjustments of going from the rural areas to the cities and the manufacture, and the world became 49 to 80% more manufacturing than agriculture. It is time to now move from the old way of doing technology to the new way of doing technology. So one of them, let's face it, Agile is here to stay, right? Agile is the way that we're gonna bring technology faster into, especially in the software development. You guys are very familiar with what DevOps is as engineers or as data technology people, right? So DevOps is also here to stay. The fact that in the beginning we as DBAs, we became not only just operation, but now we had to become developers, and we had to provide solutions in the DevOps, which we did not in the past. So now we had to adjust. We had to put this new armor of both being the developer and the operations of many organizations. This is just the beginning. Application technologies right now that are heading the market, and I'll be quite honest with you, if you're a developer and you want something fast, you know, if you know how to pick up languages, something that you may want to consider is robotic automation systems, right? The UiPath, the Blue Prisms, the Microsoft Power Automate, and the Anywhere it's right now the leading software for automation. What's going to happen as we get into the next 5 to 6 months is companies are going to start laying off more people. And they're going to start laying off strategically by creating the robots or the automation that will take those jobs. And what it's not doing, is you have to understand, is the maintenance of those jobs, the maintenance of those robots. So the need for engineers, especially in the software engineering, to maintain those robots is going to continue to grow. I'm just giving here a little example of the programming languages that are highly right now looked at for recruiters. And you know, let's face it, most of these jobs are right now outsourced. They're coming, you know, many companies are going to be building this for cheap, outsourced, and guiding you to become a front-end web developer and telling you that that's going to be for the next 10 years the way that you're going to survive. I'm going to be lying to you, because as our strategy is cost optimization, I'm going to find people in India, I'm going to find people offshore that are going to do this for cheaper. And the new trends of offshoring and the new trends of nearshoring and onshoring it's a mix. And how do we bring the cost of software developers? But what you do see is the automation of robots being highly demanded at this time, and the maintenance of the robots as a highly demanded skill. Okay, now back to what we are used to, which is data technologies, right? This is us. This is our niche. This is, This is how we continue to survive in this world. No? Now we are not just DBAs, we're now cloud DBAs, we're data engineers, and we had to be exposed to so many relational and non-relational environments. So my advice for your survival strategy is to pick 4 relational database and a few non-relational database and become good at those things. You will always have a mix of these relational database, and I'll be, depending on what area of the country you're in, you're gonna know which one are usually the most. You always have your oracles, you always have your SQLs. Those are your 2 pillars. But as the open source world and the Postgres SQLs and the MariaDBs, is never a bad idea to have an understanding, a very general understanding. You don't have to be an expert, but at least your 2 feet on the job are going to be your SQL and your oracles, and the rest of them are going to be more of a plus to your cloud DBA experience. And as you continue, the fact that you're going to be diverse in different relational and non-relational databases is going to make you a successful cloud DBA or a data engineer. Python being a very important skill, very important language to learn, as well as be very sufficient and understand Unix environment like Linux, CentOS, etc. Infrastructure technology. This is where the party is, right? You have your AWSs, your Microsoft Azures, your Google. I would strongly recommend that you begin a foundation learning on all of these technologies. You don't have to be an expert. As you go into a company and you see their trends of migrating to 1 or 2 different clouds is when you're going to have to become an expert on those 2, but have a very fundamental understanding of the hybrid cloud. If you're in the IBM or the Nutanix or the VMware as well, you have to have an understanding, but you do have to have a complete cloud engineering solution title in order to jump into these cloud engineer roles, which are very well paid. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it also takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to get all your knowledge on these clouds to be able to provide the support for these companies. Okay, so may the force be with you, my friends, as we move into the digital transformation and companies continue to build their strategies of surviving, right, into now with the pandemic, a more cost optimization solution. We as the workforce and the people that are battling the real, the soldiers in this war, need to be prepared and need to be able to put it in the armor and in the different resources and skills that we need to continue to survive. This is a community that enjoys teaching and that enjoys learning. As you continue with us in the SQL communities or in whatever communities you decide to go in, understand that we can only do this together. We cannot go on our own and become the survival force. We have to work together and we have to help each other move forward, even with motivation, because it's a lot to learn, and it's a different frontier and a different journey right now than it was 5 years ago. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.